What is happening, my friends? Today we are taking a trip down memory lane. We're about 15 or so miles out into the Gulf of Mexico. It's May. I believe even Jagger, my oldest daughter, was graduating that weekend. At that point in time, we're into near-shore fishing a lot. Back then, we were rocking a 1970 Seabird with a 250 Yamaha two-stroke. That was our first big, quote, saltwater boat. I love that boat. I wish I'd never gotten rid of that boat. This had to have been June because my daughter graduated in like the first or second weekend of June, I believe. So that's about the time it was. We'd gone about 12 to 13 miles out of Stump Pass to a wreck called the Palm Barges. It's kind of like a big area. There's culverts, there's rock piles. There's two big ferry barges. One of them, I believe, is upside down. The other one, I'm not sure. I can't remember. I have dove them both, but I don't remember exactly. It's been such a long time. But about 55, 56-ish feet of water. At that point in time, we were really into sport fishing. So Goliath groupers, sharks, tarpon, snook, anything like that. We were using big baits. We were using big hooks, big line, big leader. The idea was let's get into something big. We didn't care what it was. And it was this exact reel right here. 400-pound mono. It's a 50 wide Penn International. It's a vintage reel. This thing, I don't even know what year it is, but I know that it's pretty old. I think I may have paid $250 for it or something like that. But what I did like about it is lever drag. Up until that point in time, I was using star drag reels like Penn Senators and stuff, and I wanted to go to an international. This is what I could afford at the time, and I loaded it up with 400-pound mono, and we ended up dropping, I believe it was a 20-aught hook. It was 400 or 500-pound steel cable at the time, crimped to this and crimped to a 20-aught hook. And the plan was I don't believe Jagger had gotten on anything big, because she never went fishing with us too much offshore. So we wanted to get her on something big. So we were using this setup with a half a bonita. At this particular time, I believe I got onto Amazon, found this underwater fishing camera. It was really cheap, came in a kit. It had a 80-foot tether wire on it. What you would do is you would just hook the camera that had LED lights on it onto the end of your line, and you would just send it down the line and stop it right above the hook, and you could see what's around. I went ahead and got it because it seemed like it'd be pretty cool, so I'm really glad I did. If I remember correctly, it was a tough bite. We were just kind of hanging out. There wasn't really anything going on, and it was really hot. Jagger was sitting over there bored, and I didn't want her to be bored, so I was like, let's get this camera out and send it down the line and just see what's down there. We were anchored up right off of one of the Palm barges. I sent the camera down the line, and I turned on the monitor. What we saw was pretty wild. It was like 3 or 4 big adult Goliath grouper just like staged right around the bait. It was just sitting there, and I was like, okay. It was really wild. And then all of a sudden we're just watching, and I can't look around with this thing. It's just pointed straight down. And all of a sudden, here comes this hammerhead shark. There's a bunch of amberjacks around, and there is that massive hammerhead shark. And he's just swimming around in circles, checking it out. You see a big giant Goliath grouper down a little bit lower, just kind of watching the bait. I feel like he was getting ready to take it right there, and then backed off. There's another Goliath. There's 2 Goliath down there. There's one off in the background. and they're just kind of hanging out, not really interested. They're interested, but not interested enough to take it. And that big honking great hammerhead shark is very interested. Keeps doing circles, and he's swimming around it so much that he starts to spin the bait. He's circling it. He's circling the bait so much that he's starting to spin the camera. And a third Goliath grouper shows up. Amberjacks all over the place. These Goliaths are starting to think about it. They're right in front of it looking. Two big old Goliaths checking it out. The hammerhead eats that bonita, and that's when the fight started. If a hammerhead shark takes a bait, this one in particular, and I feel like I've heard this before, is they'll go to the surface and they'll just run. Being that this has 400-pound mono on it, this might even still be the same line. Maybe only get like 200 or 250 feet of line spooled on this before it's all it's got. So I don't have a lot of line, and I didn't realize that I didn't have the stopping power to be able to turn this big bastard. And I'm fighting this thing, and if you look really close here, and I'm gonna stop it right here, and if you look close, I am down to probably my last 10 feet of line. I mean, I thought I was for sure getting spooled. There was no doubt in my mind I was getting spooled, and if I get spooled here, then I'm losing everything. There's going to be a big hammerhead shark swimming around with a 20-aught hook hanging out of his mouth, 200 feet of mono, and it wouldn't be a good thing. And I really underestimated. I'm helpless against this thing, and I'm watching, and I'm like, okay, this is it. It's a few more turns, and I'm getting spooled here, and it stopped. Right at the last minute, it stopped. And I turned this thing. I couldn't believe that I turned it.
Hi, beautiful baby.
Coming to you, Jennifer.
Hey. Hi, beautiful.
Now get the tether. Fucking jackets or your bags in order.
One of the most beautiful fish I've ever seen in my life. I've dove with a few since then, and I've seen them in the wild, underwater, firsthand. And these things are some of the most badass fish in the Gulf of Mexico, hands down. And the one thing about hammerhead sharks is, unlike grouper or even a bull shark, these things will not give up, even at the boat. They just do not give up. From everybody who I talk to that have experience in catching these things, I mean, they will fight until they die. They will use all their energy until they have absolutely nothing left. But luckily, I got this guy back fairly quick because I didn't have a lot of line anyway to lose. So I had this thing set up for a Goliath grouper or something manageable, and I didn't realize that a 9 or so foot bull. I didn't realize that a 9 or so foot hammerhead shark would completely damn near spool me. But I got him back to the boat. Jennifer and I were trying to figure out at this point, you know, what the best way was to get this hook out of his mouth, you know, so that we wouldn't hurt the shark. And we get him up to the boat, and he rolls and he's thrashing around. He almost smacks me in the side of the head with his tail, and that probably would have knocked me out for sure.
And all that.
We've probably had him at the boat for somewhere around 5 minutes. He must have chafed the line really bad or something like that, because I get him all the way up. He's rolling around and fighting me, and I ended up trying to grab the hook and extract it, and it slipped off, and either I cut the line on accident right at his mouth, or it was so chafed that it just broke from the fight. I'm not real sure. So he ended up swimming off with some jewelry, and we ended up heading back to the house with an awesome memory. And that's part of the reason why I love Southwest Florida and the Gulf of Mexico. If you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe, hit that like button, leave me a comment, helps push me out in the algorithm and helps us grow. I appreciate everyone hanging out. If you're interested in any Seasick merch, I have a link down below in the description. I appreciate everybody, and we'll see you next week.